Hi, I'm Brian Dunn, and welcome to the most important podcast ever. What makes it so important? It's not about me, it's about you. This podcast is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, the moments of resilience, the lessons learned in the small acts that make a big difference. From retail floors to boardrooms, we'll share the untold stories that shape lives and careers. This week, our guest is Tony Sagastume, who is a legendary store manager in the annals of a company we worked at together. And he has taken his skills. Tony's a retail warrior, and he's worked through a number of fascinating places. And I'm excited to hear about him today. So, Tony, thanks so much for being here. And why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Great to be here, Brian. Thank you for having me. My name is Tony Sagastume. As Brian mentioned, we have spent some time together at Best Buy, and I'm just delighted to be here and to share the story and the journey.
Well, that's great, and we're thrilled to have you, Tony. And Tony is a store manager of some renown, a bit of a media darling in the face of some really big moves that happened at the retailer we worked at together, and beyond that into other areas. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your retail journey, Tony.
Absolutely. The first thing I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I began my retail career at a company that really shaped who I am as a leader from inception, and that is Price Club Costco. Robert and Saul Price, who created the warehouse industry, cash and carry. It was really where I started my journey. And we're talking from the ground level up and at the startup at inception. So the things that were achieved in that company with starting out with 2 stores and what Costco is today shaped my leadership skills and development. And what a ride. What a ride that was.
What year is that, Tony?
1983.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So you were there at the jump.
Yeah, I was there at the jump, and we're talking, from stock boy, forklift driver, supervisor, manager. I worked my way up through the ranks, and I got to tell you, I thought everybody in the world got up at 3:45, opened the store at 3:45 in the morning for their employees. I was shocked later on in my career to find out that everybody doesn't do that. But hard work, painful in a lot of ways, because I learned so much about leadership, teaching, and people development. And I would say that people development was really the catalyst that was the structure that took me out through my entire career.
From my experiences with you when we worked together,
Yeah.
that was always a passion point for you, the development, the identification of talent, the development of talent, and then the unleashing of talent. Is that something that developed there for you at Price Club?
Definitely, learning about people, what that does when you teach somebody something. I'll tell you, I learned a lot about that. I'll recall a floor walk that I had when I first started in management at Costco. We were walking the floor, and my boss asked me what my sales were in particular categories, and asked the associate who was stocking the shelves there, and he didn't know. And he asked me, why didn't he know? And I said, he's not supposed to know. He's just a stalker. Now, having been a stalker, that was a really bad remark. And what I had learned from that was painful, because my job was defined differently from that point on. And that was, you must teach. And that's a gift. And when you teach, you get a lot out of it. They do, and so do you. And from that, I created a lot of talent around me, people that helped me along the way. I helped them. But that teaching component was huge. It was really a big deal. So I'll stop there for a second just to kind of level set. But that's really where it was for me.
I think that's so interesting, that idea of leader as teacher,
Yep,
leader as servant leader. It's a
absolutely.
whole different mindset. And none of us are raised in that mindset.
No.
It's something I think that does need to be taught
Yep.
and modeled.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it didn't stop there. As I was learning, I learned a lot about business, and it was just fast paced, a lot of volume. But as I moved on in my career, there was a time there. I was there for almost 13 years, and I really had to make a decision on what I want to do next. And when I thought about what it's going to be a GM warehouse manager, it was going to be still another long haul. So I went, and I'll just briefly say that somebody gave me some advice that was small but huge in my career. And at this point, we had Price Club merged with Costco. And when that happened, I started thinking maybe it's time for me to go. I've got to think about what I want to do with my career, what's going to take to get to the next level. So I interviewed for a company, and I thought I did a pretty good job for a GM. And the gentleman at the end of the interview said, "Listen, I'm going to tell you, you're a good guy. I'm not going to hire you though." And he said, "But I'm going to give you some advice." He said, "You've been at your company for a long time. That's changed in this climate today. You got to have more diversity on your resume." He goes, "So when you make a decision to go, you jump for title and you jump for pay." And that one piece of advice went through my entire career and things that I did, and made some decisions along the way for my family to take on different positions. And the one thing I'll tell you is that I went to a company, and you think about Costco, it's just high volume. Went to a company that was high-end luxury retail, selling $5,000 suits and high-end merchandise in Stanford Shopping Center. And I took a job that was completely opposite from what Costco was. And one guy, Mike Monroe, who was my boss, taught me things that I had never heard of before. He came to visit me and said, "Let's go get a shoe shine." And he hands me the Wall Street Journal. I said, "I'm not even on break." And so, I mean, this guy, that's how he talked to me. And he talked to me a lot about influential people, business, how to carry yourself. And, it was a really neat experience because when he left the company, he brought me with him. And I went from running a boutique, high-end luxury store to being regional manager for Macy's West, running 6 department stores in operations. And that was really another level of learning. So
How much of your Price Club slash Costco learnings translated well to what seems to be a 180-degree leap?
well, everything. It's core. And the reality is that people work hard, and what do you do with them? It's not just the job; it's career. And I learned that from the get go. Who you see today wasn't who I started out to be. I'll tell you. Talk about learning. I had a guy that I reported to at Costco who was in Mensa, and it's so intelligent. And I got I had lessons more than I can even want to remember, but it was about being logical, thinking, and that's really what it boiled down to. And so when you work with people, you don't look at them as just workers. You look at them as people. And brothers and sisters throughout my career, I made sure that I took care of them, and they took care of me. I took care of them. But that was core for my values.
It's so interesting how the lessons translated and built on each other. How about the move to Macy's?
That was the most difficult job I've had
Really?
because, yeah, and it wasn't because of the work. It was because I learned something, and it kind of carried me through the end of my career was politics. Wow, politics and money. It was they went hand in hand, and it was unreal what I learned. It's just I can't even begin to tell you. But this guy, Mike Monroe, he took a guy that was from Costco and brought him into the luxury business and translated that skill of people. He had it himself, and brought me into Macy's West, I met the CFO of Macy's in my interview process. And I remember when I went to the interview to go to Macy's, I was sick and I just looked terrible. I sounded terrible. And I looked to the HR person and I said, listen, Corliss, I'm very sorry. I said, I'm not at my best today. And, I just, I'm sorry for how I showed up today for the interview. And that was a kid talking. And she says to me, she goes, she put her hand on my shoulder and she goes, let me tell you something. She goes, the job was yours before you got here.
So, what did you take from the Macy's?
How to maneuver, because maneuvering is important. As you get up in the ranks, things change. It's hard work and the positions that you had along the way, and it was fun. It was different. It was a wild ride. But then you get into the money side of it, and budgets and P&Ls and people, and people want to go up in their career, and how do you maneuver with them, and how do you align yourself up with the company vision, maintain integrity. But it's not black and white. It's gray, and gray is different.
About what year is this?
I went to Macy's in 1994.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I kind of went up through the ranks. So it was, after Costco, and it was just that's the time frame.
So the industry was department stores still thriving? Were they under pressure?
They were, but the things that pop in, there was ADA compliance at Macy's, and so all of a sudden, there's lawsuits all over the place for ADA compliance, and you're regridding and rechanging all the stores, and there was a little bit of havoc there. It was still fun, but people were transitioning. They were finding where to shop differently, but it was good. It was good.
Do you think people knew? Because it's certainly in 1994, I didn't know there
Yeah.
was a seismic shift coming.
Yeah. You're right, and it did change the climate, and you had to think differently. I think understanding budgeting and finances and how that plays in, people change, and you've got to roll with it. And that was
Yeah.
the learn. And first year, I felt like I won the lottery. I mean, I got a job that it was so prestigious, but I felt like I wanted to go home and cry every day. It was tough. I mean, it was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? And was the core of everything that you do in life. Hopefully it's for your family. And so for me, it was important. We had 3 children, and by design, we had a stay-at-home mom. And look, if I fail, we're done. And
Right.
yeah, but there's a lot of pressure there. So there's that, and maneuvering, and that's what it is.
And how long were you at Macy's?
Approximately 4 years.
Okay. So you learned a lot of lessons there.
Yep.
And what's next?
I did a couple things. I worked for Gap, ran a flagship store in San Francisco. But I think the eventual part that was the most fun that I had in my career was went into a different world, which was Best Buy. And ironically, the guy that was the regional HR manager at Best Buy was my friend. We worked at Macy's together. And he had warned me. He said, listen, he goes, it's a different company. He goes, you're great for it. He goes, but you're competitive, but I want to make sure you understand performance and Best Buy is a whole different animal. And he goes, you better be ready for it. And right around that time, Best Buy came into the San Francisco Bay Area and had not done a great job. They had leaders that were running the stores that they couldn't, the capacity for performance was not what they were used to. And so by the time I got into the picture, it was I was set up. I was ready to go, but I was the new calling for Best Buy in the San Francisco Bay Area. So there was a lot of pressure.
And that is, what year is that approximately?
Gosh, I'm going to say 2000, year 2000.
Okay. Okay. So what's really clear is you have a lot of really top shelf retail and varied retail experience.
Yeah.
So as I asked for each one, when you walked into Best Buy, did most of the lessons translate that you carried with you?
No. No. Uh, Best Buy was interesting in that I'm an outgoing guy. I'm all about performance. I would say one thing: performance and results started at Costco and went all the way throughout my ranks. So I knew that performance was the name of the game. That was going to be the catalyst to get me promoted and move up and maintain my career. And so
Mhm.
performance is key. So when I got into Best Buy, just to give an example for the audience that doesn't understand maybe what that journey might look like for a GM at a Best Buy, there were five general managers in training in a district that had five stores where I started. And essentially, our job was to learn the business and be ready to go when a position was open. That position only became open if somebody failed. So think about that for a second.
Or new stores would come
Right,
online, right?
right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. And so, for me, I was a general manager in training for God 9 months, and that's they were very. It was important Best Buy for you to be ready to go, and when you're ready to go, you're ready to go. And I took over a store in Santa Rosa, California, and it was the highest volume store in the region, and they were doing great financials, but not so much on a operational standpoint. Throughout my career, by the way, when I worked at Macy's, I was a regional operations manager, and I forced myself to learn operations because I was great at sales, and I knew that I had to have something else in my belt, my backpack, and it was operations. And so, essentially, at Best Buy, the store I took over, they had just had a couple bad inventories, and so that was for me to go in there and clean it up. And there was a culture of winning, but we just weren't managing the operational side. So that was a painful, start for some folks when I got in there because I had to clean it up and get things
Yeah.
going.
So as you progress through Best Buy,
Yeah.
you pick up some significant media attention.
Yeah. What I found out about Best Buy, it was a marriage made in heaven. I am a competitor. I'll tell you, this kind of sounds weird, but I loved sports growing up. I was on a baseball team, played football. My dad was my football coach. Just a great man. But I sucked. I sucked. I mean, give an example. When you play Little League baseball, when you go and you try out for the team, I made the C League, which was that you didn't get a uniform. You just got a T-shirt with your name on it and cleats. So, I had never won a trophy until Best Buy. And that is, I would say, one of the most incredible things. It sounds crazy that I took everything I ever learned to the next level. I'll tell you this, and this is what I would tell people: if you never have felt the taste of winning before, uh, hang on, because I'm going to get you there. And when you taste it, once you do, you never look back. I had never won a trophy in my entire sporting career, and I started piling them up, and it was because of the people. But the kind of things that we did, they were earth shattering. They really, really were. And I'm going to just briefly let you know that in this journey,
Please do.
still made mistakes. And Brian, having worked at Best Buy, I'm sure you'll identify with this. Home theater was one of the premier positions that you want to work in as a supervisor, as a kind of a glamorous position. And the store had a guy that was just doing a nice job, a great job. Everybody loved this guy, but he could not show up to work on time. I mean, it took everything I had to try to get this guy to come to work on time. And eventually we had to part ways, and I had to make a decision that was very unpopular. And when I did, I put a guy in position that essentially was just a hard worker. Uh, but I put him in fourth quarter to take over a position that I had to let somebody go. He goes in there and he crashes, and my business it's tanking. And I had to make a decision on this guy, and I said, "Listen, I made a mistake," and I said, "It's not your fault." I said, I should not have put you in position fourth quarter. We didn't do a great job, but it's not your fault. It's mine." And I'm sure you could probably identify with this, but there were certain parts in the store that people wanted to work at and some not so much, but appliances was tough sometimes. And so we put him in the appliance department, and he had thanked me for my leadership and that to be so humble and to say that. And just to kind of snapshot a little bit, during this period of time, we have been successful. And they had picked top 1% GMs to create a GM forum, which was to cascade information from corporate to the field in a meaningful way so that it was a lot more intimate. And it was a lot that went with that. It was great. But I just wanted to show you, this guy says to me, my appliance department, it was doing well, but not that great. But he said, I know you go to Minneapolis to the campus for the GM forum, and you talked about this Harley-Davidson that's parked at the entrance. He goes, "It's ours. I'm going to get it, and I'm going to show up for you in a way that you're going to know that when you go there, and that Harley-Davidson's at the doorstep. When you walk in, that's going to be ours, and I'm going to take that for us." And this is the picture. And here's the guy. But this is he's sitting on the motorcycle. And
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
I'm in this GM forum, and I'm still competitive because I'm with my brothers, and I let them know that we're gonna get that motorcycle, and everybody laughed at me. I got the laugh, Ryan.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I think none of that happens if you don't get that learning that he's just a stock guy. He doesn't need to know the numbers. And
Right.
what you can see throughout your story, Tony, is an evolution in how you're moving from leader as boss to leader as teacher.
Best Buy was complex. It really, really was. And I'd like to tell people so they understand uh, the numbers that you have to go after. And the real big part is the ranking of these numbers roll up into a power rank. And that dictates who you are and where you're at in your journey. And I had a guy that I reported to that was one of the best bosses. I had some great people along the way that supported me. Bill Thompson, this guy was a gem, but he knew his business left and right, and he was very knowledgeable, but he did not superimpose this knowledge that he had onto me in a way that made me feel intimidated, which he easily could have done. He let go, and he let me fly, and he was. I learned what a supporter is, and by the time I got to Best Buy, what I learned was let me go and I'll do my thing. But this guy, he really, really, really supported me. And I learned a whole different way. But when he let me go, he also gave me some humility. And that was something I learned from him. Big guy, beard, smart and everything, but he was intimidating a little bit. But no, this guy was a real great leader. And he said to me one day, he said, Tony, he said, I was in Reno and I had some difficulty along the way, and I just was not innovative, and so I took a step down. He goes, but now I'm back in position, and I've got you enrolled. He goes, and I'm going to ask you something. And I said, what's that, Bill? He says, go for it. Take us to the next level. Lead us in innovation because I absolutely don't have that skill, and I want to learn from you. And I couldn't believe that he was saying this, but he meant it. And when he meant it, I'm going to tell you that this guy endorsed me for everything. And as I went throughout the ranks, I mean, as I went through everything, I even went to China to open up a store there. But this guy says to me, do your thing. And made it into Time Magazine. Here's Time Magazine. And in here, there's a shot. I don't know if I can pull it up here real quick, but essentially, when they took the shot of the picture, he came to the store. They took my wife, my then wife, and my 3 children were in the picture. He was there to support, and they were putting me right in the front and the center of the picture with my team and my family, and they were going at it. And Bill was standing there all happy and for me and very supportive. And I asked him to get in the picture, and he refused to get in the picture. He says, this is your story, this is your journey, what you've done for us. This is for you. And I said, we argued. And right at the time they took the center shot, I pushed him. And I pushed him into the shot, and he went like this. And he was the front and center guy in the picture, wearing a black T-shirt.
That's funny.
T-shirt. Yeah.
That's great.
So, and really, humility was a good thing for me to learn. So, but he was great.
I'm mindful of our time. Time is flying by.
Yep.
I'd love it if you could touch base on the other stops you've had, and then
Yeah.
I'd really love to hear about what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just to kind of segue a little bit as I went through that journey, it was very interesting. There's a company out of Los Angeles called Curaçao. That's a Hispanic company, been around for 40 years, big department stores, just an amazing company. I got a cold call from a recruiter asking me to join the company as a senior vice president. And I was at the time in a DM role, and I couldn't understand it. But I went and I interviewed at Curaçao, this is a Hispanic company in LA, and I met a guy by the name of Rick Hutton. This guy was badass, and essentially hired me and made me a senior vice president in charge of stores out there. And when I went back home to my wife and talked about us having to relocate to Los Angeles, it just didn't go. She said, I don't know, the kids are too small, we're not ready to go. And I said, okay. And so when I did that, went back to Rick Hutton, and I let him know that how sorry I was I couldn't accept the position. And he looks at me and he says, I'm going to tell you something. You're somebody special. He goes, you go do your thing. We'll catch each other up in a period of time. But when we do, the job is still going to be there for you. We'll have something for you. 7 years later, this guy calls me up. I ended up being senior vice president working for stores out there. And as a people development vice president, then running stores. But this guy, unreal, and really took it to the next level. And I never knew that side of the business, but this guy was stealth, and he taught me a lot. But make no mistake, at a senior vice president level, you're doing things differently. And I really understood the performance side of it and did some great things. But that really took me to the next level, and really boardrooms and TV commercials and being on TV and all this stuff working with Univision out in LA. It was a whole different deal. And I remember he says to me as I get into the boardroom, he says, "This is your first day." He goes, "I'm going to tell you something." He goes, "You're a good guy. I want to tell you that you're probably going to say that to me that you're a vice president and you don't know that nothing feels differently for you." And he goes, "And it won't." He goes, "But how people look at you is what it's going to be." He goes, "Because when they see you, you're a representation of the company as a vice president level, completely different." And I remember one time I was making it very brief. I walked into a store, introduced myself, talked to a guy in the furniture department, and next thing you know, I see him look like he's crying. What's going on? What's going on here? He said, "In the years that I've been here, nobody's ever come up to me at the vice president level to thank me for the work that I'm doing." And he goes, I just wanted to thank you." And so there we go, kind of full circle. And had a great journey, did some great work. Things happen on the personal side of life. There was, the journey is simple. It's hard work and performance based. We also have a personal side. So there were some things that happened. that, had to move to LA, moved back from LA, came back to the San Francisco Bay Area, reinvent myself. What do I want to do? Was going through a little hardship there. Got 3 kids, got to keep them going, and decided that, after a little stint at IKEA, I thought I got to do something on my own. And because it's time to take everything you've ever learned and apply it and do something with it. And at that time, I decided that I was going to go into business for myself. And that was very difficult because you're paying for everything. You're doing all the things that you want to do, but the buck stops with you. And it was great. So I created a company called Smart Fox, and essentially that company label cascaded into different businesses, and e-commerce was something I was getting into, but ultimately, done a lot of consulting work for all the work that I've done through GLG Consulting as a catalyst for Smart Fox, and I've done a lot of great work with companies, teaching them things that I learned, and it's been a great ride.
I think it's so interesting how you've taken all these pieces along the way, and it's really made a interesting full circle journey for you. I'm very keen to see how your business develops, and I am so grateful for the time you took to visit with us today. Tony, I think your career is so interesting. And
if you don't mind, I got to throw a plug out there if you don't mind, because there's one phrase in retail. It's one phrase in retail they tell you, you're doing all this stuff, and they say, listen, it's not brain surgery. He goes, it's just retail, it's sales, and that was a simplified thing. I will tell you that one of the things that are key to me is winning, and winning is important. And my kids, my family, they got to see me win. We went on great trips everywhere because I won contests and did some great work. But I taught my kids how to win, and my 3 kids have done a great job. Vincenzo, Francesca, and Giancarlo. Get a little Italian names, but I'll just throw a quick plug out for my son Giancarlo Sagastume. This kid's a PhD student, age 24 years old, UC Davis, and I wrote it down because he's so smart. I don't even know exactly what he does, but bionic prosthetics, and majors in electric engineering in his PhD program. He turned down Carnegie Mellon because he wanted to stay here in the Bay Area and do some work with prosthetic arms and robotics. But my family learned from me how to win, but they took it to the next level. So I'm very proud of my work, but the work that my kids have done has been my ultimate report card.
Well, it's all of our ultimate report card. Well done. And that's it. I want to thank our guest, Tony Sagastume, for sharing his story. I think the lessons about winning, one of the things I love about retail.
We're talking about winning. There's a man in that picture, and that guy, Brian Dunn, core.
Oh my god. I don't know.
My entire store won Achievers, and this man, Brian Dunn, when you talk about inspiring people, let me tell you something. In front of my family, my entire team at Hard Rock Cafe at Achievers, he gets on the microphone and he yells out, "Tony Sagastume, stand up." And I did. He goes, "I want to work for you." And that's the CEO of Best Buy. And I'll tell you something, what a thrill to hear that.
Well,
it was amazing. You're inspired an entire company, my friend.
You're too kind, Tony. And that now is it for this episode of the most important podcast ever. Big thanks to Tony for sharing his story, and an even bigger thanks to you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with someone who might find it meaningful. You can listen and watch on our YouTube channel, and I will link all the other places you can find us. And remember, the person you talk to in the aisle at Price Club or Costco or any other place you are, you can leave a lasting impression on. That's it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Brian.